Yo, yo, yo. What's up, friends? I'll give you a little backstory here. 34 years old, blue collar, working the wastewater field. Tired all the fucking time. Don't know shit about my feelings. Got 2 kids. One's about to turn 1, one's about to turn 3. Love them to death. They saved my life. Going through this, all these feelings and emotions, they come up and you're trying to explain to them how to deal with theirs and you can't even deal with your own. It's fucking sad. So I decided to be accountable and try to deal with it. So, you do what you do. You start reading and figuring out your emotions and trying to get a grasp. Sorry, there's a fucking bug getting me right now. I'm at work. And try to get a grasp on your emotions and you fucking can't. And I don't want to do my kids a disservice. So, you start reading and about childhood trauma and stuff like this, and you're like, oh shit, I can relate with a lot of this stuff, but I don't remember getting molested. I don't remember, anything bad happening. And maybe nothing bad did happen. I don't remember anything. Should I remember that traumatic event? I don't know. So I just continue reading, and I start going to a therapist. I'm on my 3rd session now, and they're all like, be accountable for yourself and don't blame others. I don't blame others. I understand, that shit's generational. I mean, the same shit my parents did to me, their parents did to them. They just changed the things that they didn't like. Cut those out. So let's talk about some of my symptoms. Tired all the time. Angry. Irritable all the time. Terrible relationship with my feelings. And the feelings I do feel, I can't even say because a lot of them I didn't even know what they were. Like, obviously I know what sad is because I'm going to start crying. But, happy? I don't know. Anger? Yeah. Irritability? Yeah. Sad? Yeah. Anxiety? I don't know. I feel it, but am I anxious or scared? Can I be anxious and scared? I just don't know. I bottled everything down for so long, and it's been reinforced by my family. And that's just normal, you don't talk about your feelings. Be a man until you put a gun in your mouth and fucking kill yourself. And it gets bad, when you're holding on to a dwindle of hope. And like I said, if it wasn't for my kids, I could be in that situation, but I could never do that to them. So, if you're tired all the time, irritable, angry, but you're in a situation that's pretty fucking good, obviously something's wrong, right? Nice house, 2 beautiful children, good fucking wife. But you're just running into these stupid fucking problems. So that's when I decided to do my own little research and get some help. And it's a crazy fucking feeling. The first thing you experience is a little bit of grief. My parents fucking grinded, and I know they did. And that's what they instilled in me. You work hard. And they did. And that was part of my methods for distracting myself from my emotions. Is you just throw yourself in your fucking work. You just become the best employee. You're just the best work bitch ever, you know? They're like, fuck yeah, this guy. You know, you just have no respect for yourself. And I can't talk to everyone's experience, but mine is my senses are hyper aware. You're hyper aware of everything. Try to make yourself as small as possible. You zone out, you do whatever. You show other people empathy, compassion, understanding to a fault. And then when it comes to yourself, you're your biggest critic. You have no self-respect for yourself, dignity. You're way too hard on your fucking self. That's not good. But other people, you show grace that you wouldn't believe. And that's pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up. That was kind of one of my first understandings. Like, why the fuck do I do that? And when I said that to my therapist, I cried. I was thinking of my grandpa. He would have called me a little bitch. I was thinking, if he would have lived a little longer, I would have thrown a carton of cigarettes in his grave before they sent him down. He would have thought that was funny. He was an ornery old prick, but he showed love in his own ways. But anyways, yeah, so just you're mindful of other people's emotions. But when it comes to yourself, your self-awareness is fucking zero. Like, think of that. Like, when you say a lot of things in therapy, like, you say them out loud and you're like, how fucking stupid is that? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? How is it that I could show? Sorry, I'm putting a shelf together. How is it that I could show empathy, compassion, understanding for other people? And then for myself, I'm just like, whatever. Whatever. Right? So that was a big one for me, kind of understanding my background. Well, my parents always worked, and they weren't home much. But the harder they worked, we moved up the ladder, the socioeconomic ladder. And I don't blame them. They just wanted to, they were focused on giving us a better life than they had. And I get that. That's another thing about therapy. accountable for ourselves. What was my next big one? So I don't remember anything big happening to me. But that doesn't mean you don't have trauma. Just because you can't remember something doesn't mean you don't have trauma. Doesn't mean you're a victim now. I've heard some people describe it as like big trauma, little trauma, but you can imagine little trauma stacks up too, so. What we try to do is be aware. And sorry, I'm like ADD rambling. That's another part of my trauma too. I like to hyper focus on things. It helps me block out what I'm thinking. Number 2 is I had the hardest fucking time saying I had trauma. Because to me, it feels like I'm saying my parents are bad parents when I know they weren't. But the truth is, they just didn't have all the tools. And I think that's okay and fair to say, you know? They did what they could. They did the best they could. They didn't do a bad job. Their parents didn't give them any of these tools. But now it's our chance to pay it forward. So that was huge for me. Saying, you know what, Mom and Dad? You guys never talked to me about my emotions. That wasn't very good. That did cause trauma. Then my other realization was, not only did that cause me trauma, but me never speaking up and telling them anything made me feel it basically rewarded the behavior. Because they would always say things like, you know, like you would imagine. Almost lost my finger there. You're such a good kid. You never have any problems. You're so easy. So I'm like, oh, so if I never speak up or talk about my issues, that's good. That makes life easier for my parents. I never cause a problem that makes them love me more. I don't know, a lot of this shit I'm just still thinking about, so I'm speaking out loud. Love me more. I'm just trying to avoid talking about my emotions. I don't know, I'd have to explore that further, but some of this shit you'd think about on the way home when you're leaving work. If you got an hour drive, you might cry a little bit on the way home, but that's alright. You just sit on them feelings and let them come. Makes the drive a little better instead of cussing out people in traffic. You know? Which I tried to avoid. Oh, me rambling. Blah, blah, blah. So the behavior being rewarded. Me not speaking up being rewarded. Just thinking about that, I was like, damn. That's fucked up, you know? Is that true? Partially true? I don't really know, but in my head I remember that being said a lot. What an easy kid. Such an easy kid. Never complains. But also what that reinforces is it's not safe to talk to my parents. And if you can't talk to your parents, then who the fuck do you feel safe talking to, you know? And that's sad. You never feel safe talking to anybody. When you think about your kids being in a situation where they need to speak up or they need to tell you something, and them being afraid to tell you, and oh man, that would fucking kill me, you know? A lot of this stuff, even acknowledging it, is fucking huge. It's a big fucking deal. Big fucking deal. But being the feeling of alone, the feeling of not being heard, a fart in the wind, it's a sad feeling. This kind of goes along with, this is for me. So anyone listening, if you have a similar background, but you feel like the way you dealt with it reflects now, like your triggers or whatever are different than mine, that's fine. But hopefully I can give you some tools that help me help you. So being alone, being unheard, that's a trigger for me. But I don't say anything because I don't like conflict. So what do? Resentment. Building resentment. What a shitty, unfortunate thing to do. Let's build resentment. So let's give out some scenarios. So with me, I'm going to agree on stuff that I don't want to do. To avoid conflict. And that's terrible. If I don't want to do something, I should be able to speak up. But that's just how I am, right? That's why I'm working at it. Be better for me and my kids. And hopefully feel better. Resentment. So you don't say anything. You build up resentment. And then one day you snap. And you let all these feelings out. It's like a feeling cum dump. And you're all built up. What a shitty thing to do, you know? Think about things you could do. That's not a good thing to do. It's a shitty thing to do. It's kind of a rewarded behavior, because guess what? You dump out all these feelings and you feel better. It's not healthy. At all. But you do feel better. So being able to speak up. Be an advocate for yourself. When you avoid conflict, it's not the easiest thing to do, I'll tell you that. Not at all. So that's another bad one. It feeds pretty negatively. So if you feel like, for me, like if I feel like my wife's ignoring my kids, even if she's had a hard day, we both work. And we're lucky enough to have help from my mom to watch them during the week. 2 days a week. Shit, what was I saying? You know, that triggers me. Because I feel like they're not being heard. Like I'm not being heard. So my inner child saying, Holy shit. Say something. So we need to learn to speak up and be advocates for ourselves. That's a big one. Speak up, be advocates, have a voice. Another thing is we need to do that healthily. Healthily? Nice? I don't know. We need to do that the right way without being assholes. Right? We don't say, don't fucking do that. We say, hey, when you do that, that's a trigger for me. You know? Or you just say, hey, your daughter's trying to talk to you. You know? At a certain point, I understand if your SO's straight up ignoring, that trigger might get a little mouthy. We'll try to avoid that. So, that's kind of my guts, feelings, quick little background. I'm trying to think, do I want to wrap this up? Where am I at? Triggers. Anything else to resonate with anyone from my childhood? Oh, this is one. Uncomfortable around crying. Not so much with kids. With my kids, for whatever reason, maybe it's like a way for me to heal, like in a fucked up way, but like if my wife's crying, I feel uncomfortable. And when my kids are crying, it's like, holy shit, I need to help them, you know? So maybe that kind of ties into, like, because I am way more of a helicopter parent than I thought I would be. So maybe now thinking out loud, maybe that does tie into my trauma where it's, my kids are crying, I gotta fucking help them. Maybe that's everyone. I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but there's a big difference. With my wife or anyone else, it's you're uncomfortable. You're like, should I just leave? But with your kids, it's different. Like you're there, you know, like you should be for your wife. Yeah, and as I say some of this stuff out loud, I mean, I know it's sad and it's stupid, but we just can't help it. We can try to be better now. That's what we do. Try to be better. So anyway, as I'm going through therapy, I was talking about my grandpa earlier. Smoked till couldn't lift his hand and smoke anymore. Got cancer and it spread throughout his body. And once it got to his brain, had to get help to use the bathroom. And I know if he could have got a gun on his hands, he would have just killed himself, you know. That's when I was joking about dropping a carton of cigarettes in his grave. He would have thought that was funny. He was an ornery fucker, but anyways, at his funeral, so we were pretty close, he would take me fishing and we'd just go out on the water, and I think that was his time to just sitting on the boat. He was a lake fisherman. He just liked to sit and just sink that fucker to the bottom and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. By the time I was 12, I probably smoked fucking 5 cartons of cigarettes because everyone just fucking smoked inside, played cribbage, watched NASCAR. To this day, I can't watch fucking NASCAR. Nothing against them, it's just fucking brings back some shit, you know? Or play cribbage, really. I even brought a board into work and I can't even fucking open it. But, at his funeral, there was a lot of fucking people. And I was probably 12. And, I just started bawling and crying. You know? That's, everyone was talking about him dying, you know? Going up on stage and talking about him, and I just started bawling. And you get that feeling like people are looking at you. And people are looking at me like really uncomfortable. Like I'm being fucking weird. 12-year-old crying about his grandpa being dead. And I'm sure I'm gonna remember other instances, but I don't know what, just thinking about my emotions and feelings and being self-aware, that memory popped up and I was like, damn. That's a really uncomfortable feeling. And I was talking with my therapist about that memory, and he told me they were uncomfortable with me crying. But that doesn't have anything to do with me. They were just uncomfortable, you know. It's not like... It's their trauma. It's their feelings. They didn't know what to do. They were looking at me like, why are you doing that? You're going to trigger something in me, you know, like... So, it's important to think about that stuff and not blame them, because that's my initial reaction, but really they're just... It is what it is, right? That's how they were dealing with their shit at that moment. Pain in the arse. Yeah, that's how they were dealing with their trauma in that moment. Their feelings, their emotions. And that's the first memory I can accurately rely on to say that was a moment of uncomfortableness for crying. I remember going to a lot of daycares and shit, but not too much. Like that's my only memory that I know that's an uncomfortable moment, so that's something. That's pretty hard to deal with too, because when you're in one of those situations like with your wife, and because they're crying, that's how they're dealing with their shit right now. You know what I mean? It's like, if I go to work that day and I just fucking grind, that's how I deal with it. Like, they might come home and they might cry. You should acknowledge it and, you know, be there for them. Like, someone should have been there for me, you know, in that moment. So I guess that's a little lesson. We'll try to be there for our significant others in those moments, even though it feels impossible. It's definitely not. It's very doable. Very doable. trying to think of other stuff while I put the shelf together. Sorry. It's not working very good for me.